Done.
Okay.
So take it away, Annie.
Okay. So when Nick asked me to do this, I started kind of trying to plan and prepare and put together a lot of material. And then I kind of thought, you know what, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. You guys obviously know what you're doing with this. So what I would rather do is kind of tell you some of the things, because I feel like the success I've had with flipping, I hate to even call it flipping. I feel like that word has a negative connotation. I kind of put my heart into every project that I do with these. So for me, it's more like a renovation, or I don't know. I hate that word, but anyway, so I thought you guys have probably, a lot of you have probably done this. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've seen other people do it or helped clients do it. But I just thought maybe I could talk about some of the things that I have done. I'll just give you some specific examples and like how I found these properties, because I have found that like the wholesaler scene, I'm on all the emails, I get the texts every day. If you don't and you're interested in that, I'd be happy to send that information to you. But I haven't found success with that. For me, it's just, it feels like a little bit too competitive. Anytime I go to look at one of those houses, it kind of feels like exhausting to me. Like I don't want to play that game. So for me, I have just taken this approach of just really everything that, almost every house that we've done, either it's just been on the MLS and I've noticed it and I know the neighborhood because I've been showing houses in the neighborhood or listing houses in the neighborhood, or I find sometimes that these, like, they'll kind of fall into my lap through my clients. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that too. You have to be careful if you're going to do that. But I've had probably 5 or 6 clients where in this market, maybe, I don't know, I feel like any market this works, but really some markets are better than others, but I've been able to just buy their houses from them. So we'll meet, I'll tell them all the list of things they need to do to get their house ready. And then I'll say, or I can just buy it from you for this price and you don't need to do anything. And we'll go start looking at houses. And I've had a lot of people take me up on that because some people just don't want to deal with it. So I've done a few that way, and I feel like that's a win-win. The one thing I would say, because I feel like Amy's wheels are probably turning right now, or she's probably going, oh, that's not good. And same with Rich.
Yeah, like the fiduciary part of it.
Be careful.
Yes, it's your job to make sure you're getting the most for your client. But
yes, go ahead.
Oh no, answer that. And then also with that, I would love to hear what is it about that house that sparks it? Like when you're saying, I want to know like specifically. Okay,
yes. Yeah, because it's definitely not for everyone, but it's usually, the conversation is usually, what I was going to say is that you need to have a hold harmless agreement signed. So that's what previous brokers have told me anyway, is that as long as they sign a hold harmless, you should be fine. And this is the thing, like, and I feel like maybe this is where I've been lucky or whatever, but I just, my clients trust me. Like, I'm not telling them anything that isn't like the truth. So I lay out the numbers for them. I say, well, this is how much you could probably get if you put this much into it. And if you don't want to deal with that, you can get a little bit less from me. And then I will put this much into it and probably sell it for X amount. And so I just like lay it all out for them. And
you're doing that before, like in the listing appointment, before you have an actual listing agreement. So you're not technically
usually them yet? Yeah, usually in the listing appointment. But if not, then it's been situations like one time I had a client where they were packed up on their way to Texas. They had this cute house in Murray, but she had like everything was like teal and like faux painted and just bad. And so like they were packed up moving to Texas. We were under contract. We had the buyer. The buyer backed out last minute. And so I said, well, you know, we can put it back on, we can do this, I can stage it, whatever, or I can just buy it. And so that's what I did that one. So it's just, you know, it's circumstantial. It just depends on the situation, but a lot of times it does come up in the listing appointment. So.
Amy?
Okay, Annie, I've done this. I've been in your shoes, so I'm not like a finger pointer or the ethics police. The only thing, and Rich, this is what's going through Rich's mind right now, is that the law prohibits you from buying your own listing. So just one step that you would have already done, and everyone at this table knows this, is just you have to dissolve the listing.
Yes, sorry, that's true. And it's been a minute since I've done it, but I do remember that. You have to cancel the listing agreement.
Okay,
thanks for that.
Richard asked, are you actually buying it from them or agreeing to a price, then putting the money into the renovation and selling it and keeping the difference?
Okay, so in the past, it's been me actually buying it from them. So just cash.
So you click on it, normal transaction, buying it.
Yes. Yes, but I have started, and this has been really good for my business. So since I added this staging element to my business, it's been really good. And I feel like I've been able to really help people really get the most money for their houses. And just as an example, I had a really good friend from elementary school. Her husband called me and said, you know, my wife really wants to work with you, but we have a friend, I have a friend from back when I had my real estate license who will sell our house for 1%. And I said, well, I will not do that. But what I will do, and a lot of you guys are not going to like this, and you're going to say, I don't know, maybe I'm not the smartest with this, but what I have done is put a lot of time and money into my listings. So what I did is I charged them a full 3%. This was just this summer, but like I went in and had it cleaned, windows cleaned, yard done, baseboards painted, and staged it. So I probably spent $3,000, but I did take a full commission, and I truly believe that we got them $25,000 more for their house than they would have gotten otherwise.
You also gained a client for life. Like there's
absolutely
no between who they use next time.
That is so true. I'm so glad you brought that up, because had I said, okay, I'll do it for that, or I'll do it for 1.5 or whatever, they wouldn't have said anything. Instead, now they're like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You got us so much money for our house. Exactly. So now I have a client for life.
Yeah.
Whereas a discount, nobody remembers that. So to answer Richard's question, I'm open to doing more of that. And I think as agents, if we have the ability to do that, I think that's a place where we can be, you know, because I just have felt like I've had to restructure a little bit and kind of refocus on where my value add is with all the homies of the world, you know. I have just, that's one of the reasons why I started doing the staging and adding that piece, and then it just has kind of evolved from there. So
if you are going to do that though, like for Rich and thing, if you are going to put all the money into the home and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you're going to put a lien on the property.
Yes.
Certain things.
And that's a hard conversation. And like, yeah, if it's going as far as like Richard said, so maybe I'll hop over and talk about the house I just did in Saratoga Springs that I posted it on Facebook. I don't know if you guys saw it, but so that one, that's an example of where I would have done that for that client, and I would have liened the property, because what I did is I showed it to a client. She didn't like it and felt that it needed too much work, didn't have the vision for it. So I ended up contacting the listing agent and buying it. I bought it for $475. I put $20,000 into it. It was very minimal. It's a 2016 house. So it was like paint, carpet, tile backsplash, light fixtures, and hardware on the cabinet. So I completely changed the look of the kitchen and the look of the house with just $20,000. We did some yard cleanup too. And then I sold it for $560. So it was a good profit. It was close to $50,000. But had that been my client, I would have said, hey, let me lend you this money. Let me bring my people in. we'll get these things done in 2 weeks. We'll list the property for $560, and they would have made almost $40,000 more than they did by listing with a discount brokerage and just putting a sign in the yard. So that's one thing. So those opportunities are out there. That was a house that I knew the market, I knew the neighborhood, I knew what it would sell for. It was a no-brainer for me.
Hey,
So,
Annie.
Oh,
Quick question.
hi, Randy.
Hello. I guess I was Ellen May. I didn't even know that. My kid had changed. He was talking, but do you mind, or maybe you're planning on doing this later, kind of getting a little more into depth with how you have that conversation with your clients? Because I will offer staging services. I'll do whatever I need to do to have the listing show well and get them the best price.
Yeah.
But I am a little fearful of saying, hey, if you put 10 grand into this house, you're probably going to get this back. And like just being confident in that. And because we know, but it's scary sometimes when you're asking somebody else to put their money into it. And then what if it doesn't happen? So I kind of,
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. And especially like, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out and we can't predict even what the market will do. You know, it's like, gosh, you could put all this, and I've had this conversation, and I'm sure you guys have with clients, like you could put this time and money into it, but if we go from a September market to now a November market, what's the point? It's not worth it, you know? So you really do have to weigh all those things and take it really seriously, and I guess the biggest thing is just to never overpromise. Like I can show them historically what has happened. I can show them statistically what usually happens. I mean, with these houses that I've flipped, like I don't like go to Home Depot and buy the 99-cent tile, you know, like that's not gonna pull the buyers and pull on their emotions. I mean, I'm like I probably own like 60 mirrors from Home Goods, because like every time I see a good one, I just buy it and then I just use it in my, you know, in my flips in the powder bathroom or whatever. Like those are the little things that really, sorry, I'm getting off topic from your question, but those are the little things that make the difference. And that's honestly where I feel like another place to kind of add value with your clients is like, hey, yeah, don't paint the house that, you know, sienna sand color. Like, let's not do that. Like, you know what I mean? So if you're there to kind of guide them on what to do and what not to do is helpful too, you know? So without making promises, I guess. I don't know where Wendy went. Are you on mute?
Yeah, I was. Sorry.
Oh, you're
No,
fine.
that does help, because I have said, hey, clients, you should do this. And then they go ahead and do something. And their idea of what I said was totally different from what I was picturing. So now I am like, if they trust, you know, if they're going to do it, I said, let me see everything you do before you do it. And that seems to work better. But,
and like where to get the biggest bang for your buck, right? Like, don't go buy a $400 mirror for the bathroom, but this one's $30 and we'll do the trick, you know? So.
Right. And then when you do talk to your clients and say, hey, you can do these things, you said you basically show them the numbers and you just let them decide what they want to do. And like, how does that conversation go?
Well, it depends on the client and what needs to be done. And, you know, a lot of times it's me just saying, no, I'll do it, you know, like it's not, oftentimes it's not like a full paint and carpet that needs to be done. Sometimes it's just cleaning the windows and staging and, you know, yard clamp or whatever it is. So those conversations are pretty easy because it's usually me doing it and paying for it. So they're like, sure, do whatever you want, you know? So, but if it's their money, yeah, it's a little bit different conversation, I guess. I don't know. It just depends on the client.
So if you were going to do for a client and it's 10 to 20,000, do you put that money in and actually do it and then lien the house?
Well, so that's what I was saying. So I definitely would. Like I haven't actually done that yet. Because a lot of people they tend to just be able to come up with the money, you know.
Yeah.
So but that's something that I've kind of talked through with my title company and how that would look and what, you know, I definitely would do that. That's something that I want to start offering people. And that was the example I was making out of the Saratoga Springs house. Like with the help, like, because obviously those people either didn't want to or didn't have the means to do what they needed to do to their house. If it was that they didn't have the means, that's somewhere where I would like to be, you know, offering that service to people who need it.
So let's go to,
it's worth the risk because there's not a lot of risk in it when you know the numbers.
that's a good point. Amy Gibbons had a question to Richard. Let's do that. And then let's get back on track. I want to hear like how you're more about how you're finding and
let's get back.
I just want to hear about how you're finding your flips and that kind of thing. So Richard, Amy Gibbons asked, that's an interesting approach. Do you keep the profits by increasing the commission?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Richard.
No, as Amy and I have been chatting here as we listen to Annie.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, you guys know Josh Jorgensen on our team. He's amazing.
Yeah.
All sorts of respects. And the situation, he's on his second one where he's not actually flat out buying it and getting a loan. He's just working with the seller. Situation was divorce case. His clients were getting divorced. They wanted everything to be done. Inspector, they had a house under contract. Inspector came through, made an error. Whole house floods. Buyer backs out. And they don't wait around for the insurance company to do their work. So Josh basically came to an agreement of what he's going to pay them when the house sells. And then he and his buddy have a separate LLC that they do the work on, and then they'll just sell it. As far as the taxes go, I have no idea. My philosophy on taxes is make the money, pay the tax. I don't worry about it until later on. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, Richard. I feel like that's because he's like, that's a win-win, right? He's helping his clients a ton. He's saving them, but he's going to make some money too.
Well, you'll make more money because you can list it for quite a bit higher too, right? So even.
Yep.
Yeah, they were under contract, I think, for 305. It's an older house, like a 1910 house in American form. After all the work is done, he'll put about 20 grand into it, and they'll list in the high 300s when it's all said.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so that gets us back to where I wanted to talk about just where we're finding these, right? I feel like this is where we have a huge advantage over other random consumers who are wanting to do this. And let's be honest, does everybody want to flip houses at some point in their lifetime, right? So I feel like we have an advantage there. Like we're in the trenches every day. So, you know, we know the neighborhoods, we know the micro markets better than anyone, right? So like for me, I'll give an example. I have a friend who I ended up listing his flip in Sandy this summer. He's from up north and didn't know the neighborhood that well. I kind of gave him an idea on it, but he was kind of banking on the comps that were in this neighborhood, like 2 streets over. But this house actually sat on the cusp of a neighborhood that was valued much less. So, I mean, it ended up selling not for what he, had hoped for, but it did end up selling. But it's like, I would say like the number one thing is focus on areas that you know, right? And if you guys have read the Flip book that Gary Keller is, I think, a co-author on or something, they talk a lot about that. Like, definitely focus on areas that you know well and areas that you live close to. Like, make it easy for yourself, as far as getting there and doing things. But so as far as finding them, there's obviously the wholesaler list, and anybody and everybody can get on those. You do have to have cash to purchase those, most 9 times out of 10. But aside from that, where I've had luck is my own listings or my own clients before their listings. And then just stumbling on older listings. And that's one thing I would say to go look at, is just go look for older listings that have been on the market. Like in this market, 45 days is old. So look into those. And then, what else was I going to say? Another avenue. I mean, for me, that's where where I've kind of been lucky to find some decent deals. I know there's, foreclosure notices and those notices of default and those kinds of things. And that's one way to go. I personally, this is not my main business, right? This is like the extracurricular part. And so for me, like, I don't have the time to do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. These are things that have kind of fallen into my lap.
Well, you're open to it. You're aware. You're looking for them.
Yeah.
Just add kind of things. Is there a price
Yeah.
point that you kind of steer away from, or that you focus on? Have you had more success in a certain price point than another?
Well, I kind of like that middle point. So like the Saratoga one was $550. I was going to show you guys one I did in 2017 in Sandy. We bought it for $3. I wanted to show you the pictures. Can I share my screen? Let's see. I'm going to try and screen share this. I wanted to show you these. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, am I sharing my screen now? Can you hear me, Em?
I can hear you, but I was muted. Sorry.
Oh.
I think you should have permission to share. Hold on.
Okay. Here, let me see. Is that working or no?
It's not. Is it on the MLS that you're pulling it up? Where are you pulling
Yeah, it's okay. I'll send it out to you guys if you want to see it. It's
if you want to give me the MLS number and you can start talking about it, I'll pull it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will. I was just pulling up photos, but I can get it on the MLS really quick. No, I'll keep talking and I'll get it to come up on the MLS. Anyway, this was one in Willow Creek, and I've got my spreadsheet here too. I can just send it out. I don't know why it's not sharing.
Sure.
But so this one was interesting in stark contrast to the Saratoga one. It was a lot of work, but we found it just on the MLS. I think we got it for $340. And we sold it for $503, and we netted about 70,000 on it. But it was a really fun one to do because it was like, for me, I like having, you were asking about price point. I like the stuff that I can, like I said, kind of put my heart and soul into it. And so like for this one, we had a lot of fun. It was so well built in the 70s. When it was built, that we were able to keep, like, we kept a couple light fixtures, we kept this really cool granite fireplace. It was all Anderson wood ironclad windows, so we painted all the window panes this dark blue gray color. Like, it turned out so pretty. We had so much interest in it. It actually brought people to the market who weren't even in the market for a home, and it ended up going over asking in just a few hours. But that's the thing I think I'd like to stress to you guys is, like, you have the flippers who are just like in it for the money, and they're just like, I'm going to put the cheapest tile in. People can see through that. Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed that when you're out showing houses. For me, I feel like consumers are much smarter than that, and they're more picky, and they're not falling for that. And
well,
so
if they're going for like a fail, maybe they don't know exactly what it is about it that they don't love, but that doesn't wow them.
Yeah,
but they can tell the ones that do wow them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel like you have to do it right. Like, make it something you would want, and it will sell. And sure, maybe you could have gotten away with, and that's the other thing. So we've talked a little bit about how to find them. I wanted to talk to you about what to do and what not to do, because that has been hard for me. Because I do get so passionate about it. And then my husband would be like, we don't need to do that, Annie, stop. You don't need to do that. So things like, I was looking back at those pictures of that Sandy house, and I remember I was insistent that we did the stairs in wood. Like, I would not have carpet on the stairs because you walked right in and looked at them, and I was just like, that is so tacky. We are not doing that. And like, I look back on it and I'm like, that was so expensive. Like, we could have definitely gotten away with that, So there's a fine line there, but when you cut too many corners, people notice that, and it just doesn't have the same effect. And I saw that firsthand in selling this home for my friend who flipped it in Sandy this summer. Like, I had to come in and it was kind of a mess, and people saw through that at the $600,000 price point, so. Yeah,
give us a list of do's and don'ts.
Okay, so I think lighting is big. Lighting is a big bang for the buck. Totally update the space with a little amount of money. I think that yard work is important, more important than people give give it credit. I feel like you see these flips a lot and they're just like these gross yards. But there's a fine line there too, because like, for instance, the Saratoga house, I was set on planting all new shrubs in that and then ran out of time. And it didn't matter, but it did matter that it was cleaned up and not looking like they were going to have to come in and do work. So I would say don't overdo the yard, but if you have like a tree that's completely overgrown that's covering the house, that needs to come down. You know, that you need to budget that in for sure. Or just like if, you know, flower beds and things are overgrown, you need to clean that up. What else is a must do? So obviously kitchens are the big sellers, right? But I think you can be pretty creative. Like this Sandy house was a total rehab. So we like knocked out walls and opened up the kitchen and did a big island. This Saratoga house that I did more recently it was a very good kitchen layout. It had dark cabinets. I was able to like put in a light backsplash and kind of lighten everything up and add gold hardware, like change the look without spending a ton. So I would assess that when you're looking at a kitchen, like what can you keep and what, you know, don't paint like oak cabinets white. Like I probably wouldn't do that, but there are things you can do, you know. Let's see what else. Must-dos. I think the biggest thing is to know like if the bones are good, right? So like we've had some where like we have this little bungalow that we ended up keeping as a rental, but like we spent way more money on that than we intended, but it was a much older house and we just ran into problem after problem. Whereas like if you have a newer home and you know like furnaces look good, roof looks good, windows look good, then that's going to really help you stay in budget on the cosmetics if you've got those, you know, working systems and bones of the house are in good shape. Other things that I always do, we had a little house in Sandy that we did. And one of the things that I love to do that I've done on probably we did a little one in Rose Park too. Like keep those oak floors. Like I can't stand it when people go in and like go over all the flooring with something else. Try to keep the good elements of the house. Like one, you'll save money. Two, it's character, you know? So like, you don't, there are certain things that you can hang on to that people will actually appreciate, whether it's old doorknobs or, you know, old solid core single panel doors or oak floors. Like those are some things that you want to really think twice about pulling out before you.
It is kind of funny and weird too. Sometimes like you'll see a house that has, you can totally tell who flipped it. It's or that it was flipped because of certain things like
like gray laminate flooring.
Exactly that. And then they have ornate countertops or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, so like definitely you know, yeah, you want to watch the budget. Obviously you can blow it with overspending on things, but at the same time kind of think of it as if, you know, people always say, well, it's not your house, well, it's an investment. Well, I kind of want to do it as if it is my house to a point. You know, there are obviously things that definitely don't waste your money on. I always replace exterior lighting again, because I just feel like that's like to have a nice big clean black fixture, you know, carriage lights on the sides of the garage as opposed to little brass fixtures that are 30 years old, you know. So
give us some don't do, and I was wondering too, because I know you have to go soon, and then also we want to hear from Kody too, but question for you too is subs are hard, getting subs. So like get us a list of don't do, and then how do you navigate the sub base and getting people out to do stuff?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. I had notes to talk to you about that too, because that's tricky. So, but just on what not to do, just be careful. Just one thing that I was proud of myself. So on this Saratoga house, so we've done a few in the last couple of years, and my husband is like, he's done. Like, he's just like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, I'm working all day. I'm not working all night and all weekend too. And so He's kind of done. So I found this one and I was like, oh, I can't pass it up. So I just told him, I said, I promise you, you do not have to step foot in this house, right? And so, so what I did on this one, just to speak to what not to do, I just set a budget and I said, I absolutely cannot go over this budget. So I kind of had to give and take on things to do and not do. And, you know, the shrubs out front were one of those. As far as other things not to do, I would just say, be careful not to be too generic. Like, I think that's where people sometimes shoot themselves in the foot a little bit. Like, be open to putting your own like spin on it and, you know, make it tasteful as opposed to just super vanilla. I always say I would rather have 5 people absolutely fall in love with it and not be able to walk away from it than 50 people say, yeah, it's okay. You know, so that's I know I'm kind of going against the grain on some of these things, but it's worked out for me pretty good. So
do you have a handyman, like a go-to that kind of does that, or how much?
So to answer your question about subs, I have really good subs. So that's one of the things you need, because to make these decisions fast and make these cash offers, you have to be able to calculate in your mind pretty quickly what you're going to spend, right? So I have subs who I know their pricing. So like, I know what they're going to charge me to refinish 1,500 square feet of wood floor. I know what my painters are going to charge me for 3,000 square feet. You know, I know what my tile guy is going to charge me to do a backsplash. Like, those are the things that would come in really, really handy. And I have just been able to, the subs that I have, I've just kind of found, you know, here and there, referral, whatever it might be, but maybe a couple of them from the builders I work for. But the biggest things with subs is paying them on time, being really nice to them, knowing that they're not going to, you know, be Johnny on the spot calling you back. Like, they're not realtors. They are going to, you have to be willing to call them sometimes 5 times and not be mad at them for not picking up their phone. You know, that's just how they are. And so my advice is that with that is, yeah, get some guys. And this is the thing, is like, I feel like I keep people busy. Like, I'm constantly referring my people to my people, right? And so that is the biggest thing, is like, if you're keeping them busy, they're going to put you in top priority to get your stuff done. So, yeah.
Do you use kind of, because I know I've seen pictures of you and stuff, and I've talked to you on the phone where you're like physically doing stuff. Yes. So do you have kind of a go-to? I know there's some stuff that you do. You'll just do whatever it takes. If you have to chop down the damn tree, you're going to chop it down.
That's why I'm like, don't do anything I do, because I'm literally like lifting couches in and out of houses.
Yeah, I know that you do that. Do you have like a go-to person that you can call on? Like, hey, can you go? I know you have like your painter and you have this and this. Do you have like a handyman kind of?
I do, as of recently, and he has been really great. It's just a guy in my neighborhood who retired and reached out to me and said, hey, do you have any work for me? I'm retired now, but I can do pretty much anything. And it's been really nice to have him. Up until this has been like just a couple months. Up until having him, I didn't. And so that's where my husband came in, because he's super handy, but he's over it. Like, he doesn't want to be there fixing things and doing things. But that's the one thing I would say, is I feel like people feel like, okay, this is going to be easy. I'm going to get this house and I'm going to line out all these subs. But there's jobs in between every sub that aren't getting done, right? Little things, fixing a baseboard, whatever, changing out a door handle, whatever it is. There's little things that have to be done. And so if you don't have a really reliable handyman, you got to be able to plan on doing that stuff yourself.
Yeah, and I think that our Facebook group, there's probably the biggest thing back and forth through there is who has a this and who has a that.
Yes.
So on Tuesday, we're going to do kind of a virtual vendor fair where we're just going to pull like a bunch of our vendors together, where they're just going to say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, this is, so that we can kind of see everybody and build that. But that is a big need. So each other, using other agents and just people that you know, it's a great way to build clients as you're kind of prospecting, and you find out that this person on the side paints, or, you know, just building that database of the people that you have who can help with stuff.
Yeah, that's so big.
So what are some like kind of wrap up things at a quick tip, advice, anything last?
Yeah, so I would just say, just to conclude, I would just say, be on the lookout all the time. Like if you're kind of dragging your feet to show houses to someone one day, just think of it as your research, right? Every time we're out in the market, we're researching the neighborhoods and we're learning more and more about what values are, because they're changing rapidly, right? So to have a good pulse on that is so important. So just think of it as research every time you're showing houses. Second, I would say have a good Pinterest board. I live in a very dated house, but I get all my creative energy out by doing these other houses for other people. So that's nice. And then I would say to, like Emily mentioned with the subs, like just start to build those relationships. It's so important to have good people that you know you can rely on. If you don't have that, you will find that it's not going to work. It's really not going to work without a good network of subcontractors, because you'll just have too much lag time between each project, right? Each, what's the word? Trade. Yeah, between each trade. And so your job will just go too long. I use my own money. If you are wanting to do this and borrow money, you certainly can. It just starts to look different. And I think that's where, and I don't want to take any more time, but that's where I've run into problems with clients who want to do it. It really, I have built a pretty good base of clients who want to invest because they see me doing it. But it's more difficult when you're borrowing money and you're paying real estate fees, so it gets a little bit more tricky. But there's definitely good sources for hard money out there if you need that. Get that lined up so that you're not having to go out and prove yourself as a house flipper to this hard money lender. Like get that relationship set too.
For sure. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask her? I know you've been asking through the chat, but anything else? Okay, this has been super helpful. Thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm going to go buy a house today.
Do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. So the other side of it is Kody and what he started, and now with Tori, but what they're doing. Because I know that you also, all of you people, are investors in some form, because there's the two things. There's, do you buy and hold? Do you buy and flip? What are the philosophies with that? So Kody, like if you can just give us a little bit of context of how you got started, where you are now, and a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I grew up with really rough times in my childhood. My mom was a meth and heroin addict, and remember lots of times with the utilities getting turned off and no power, no water, having to fill up 5-gallon buckets. There's some really hard times, and I think that made me the very successful, driven person I am today, so that I never had to experience that again, live that life ever again. So it was very important to me early on to be very well invested and create financial vehicles that create a passive income, like the investment properties. So about 10 years ago, so I've been selling real estate for 13 years now. And about 10 years ago, when the market was really bad, about 2010, somebody really smart talked to me about investment real estate. And I hadn't owned my own home by that point. Frankly, I was just like really broke and poor and living in this crummy 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment with a roommate, and had popcorn ceilings and green shag carpet, and I was driving around this kind of beater car, and I just didn't have a lot at that time in my life. And somebody talked to me about investment real estate and said, "Hey, Kody, you should go own or occupy a multi-unit property," and showed me some of the investment math of it and what to look for, and taught me about cap rates and how I could go pretty much live for free, and be creative with using my commission. So the very first property I ever bought that I still own today was a triplex in the downtown area. And I bought that property for $187,000, and I used I negotiated a 4% commission on it, and I got an FHA loan. So I practically bought that property for free because my commission reimbursed my whole down payment of 3.5% down, and lived in one apartment, had some roommates, had 2 other apartments paying the rent. And that was the first time I'd actually was making money on top of all my utilities and mortgage and living for free. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. You know, I'm making like $200 or $300 a month after all my living expenses are paid. I thought I was living on the top of the world at that point. And it was a really that property, honestly, to this day was the worst, grossest, nastiest property I've ever walked into. And I walked into lots of gross, nasty properties, and probably had like 20 pounds of cat feces on the floor. And it was one of those that you walked in and ran out to the porch because you were gagging and dry heaving so bad. Those are the kind of properties I like to buy because those are the ones are the most profitable. Those are the ones I can buy really cheap, and I can go through and hire people to trash it out and, you know, put new carpet in, new paint for pretty inexpensive, and you just buy them for a lot less. So most of our portfolio has been really rough, rundown, mismanaged properties because I can get a lot higher return on investment, and cash flow has always been very important to me. I wish that I could have always gone and bought properties that were the nicest properties, but the nicest properties have the hardest time cash flowing unless you put down a lot of money. And I didn't always have a lot of money, so I had to get really creative. We now have 24 doors, and they're just over a $4 million real estate portfolio here. And I just got really creative over the years. I owner occupied a bunch of properties. I was doing FHA loans, fixing them up, refinancing them, and conventional, go and use my FHA again, 5% down, just moving from property to property, and just hiring people to renovate them, and trying to get as strategic as possible. I would get home equity lines of credit on my equity, and then borrow against it and go buy more real estate with it, strategic refinances, 1031 exchanges. I got really creative with a bunch of seller financing. In my career, I think I bought six properties on seller financing before. And just being very, very intentional and focused on how can I build this with the resources I have. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't have, tons of money. And I didn't, we do pretty well nowadays, but when I started this, I didn't have tons of money. I had to get super creative, had to be strategic. And all the time, Tori and I are always talking and thinking about how can we maximize our portfolio? Where's the very best money we spend? For example, right now we've done a few creative projects where I actually sold my house, and I lived in a very nice house and sold it this year. And we took the equity tax-free because I lived in there for over 2 years and paid off an investment property. And me and Tori decided to go buy a duplex in South Jordan this year that we were able to buy on a hard money loan and go through and renovate the whole thing, do a very nice renovation, gutted it to the studs, knew everything. And we built enough equity in it that I'm now in the process of selling it to Tori, and Tori is gonna get a really super cheap owner occupied loan on it because we're now living in there. And then we'll be able to pay off the hard money loan, refund back all of the money we put into this thing, and the only thing we'll have into it is about 5% of our own money, and we did a 15% down loan because we got creative with the lenders, and we figured out a way to gift some of the equity. I could gift some of the equity to her. So our goal was to have as little money into this as possible, and then refinance all of our money out. And then she'll probably close on that this week or next week. And then after she closes on it, we'll have about $100,000 of equity, and she'll go and do a HELOC, owner-occupied HELOC, and go probably borrow $90,000 of that money that we'll then put into other real estate investments. And once we move out of that property, we'll be able to cash flow about $1,500, $1,600 a month. And when it's all said and done, we have pretty much none of our own money into this thing, or borrowed it all back out. So I've gotten really creative with leveraging the bank's money, because I haven't always had tons of money. Some of the credit unions were offering some portfolio loans. Like Mountain America was doing the 10%, 15% down multi-unit investment property loans. I've done a few of those. Like I said, lots of owner occupying. I bought a 9-unit apartment building back in 2012. And at that time, the market was really bad. And I ended up buying that from one of my clients that we couldn't get it sold. He just wanted to get his money back out of it. And he had just mismanaged it and gone through one property management company after another who just mismanaged it really bad. He never fixed anything and was wondering why he never had full occupancy the whole time he owned it. So I ended up buying that from him on seller financing, and got way better terms than the commercial lenders could have offered me at that time. And my client was really stoked on that, because he ended up selling it to me for more money than we were trying to sell it on market. And he really liked the idea of getting all the interest over the 10-year term. And our next big project on that property is, for example, I bought that property for $250,000 back in 2012. It's a little studio apartments in Ogden, and they were really, really run down and really mismanaged. And over the years, I've gotten the rents up and increased on it. And now we're looking at this and saying, okay, based on with commercial properties, the income it produces determines the value of the property. So we're in the process of getting all our bids from contractors right now, and we're probably going to go move everybody out of that building and go do a nice renovation. We estimate we'll probably put about $300,000 into it. And so keep in mind, I bought this for $250,000. We'll put about $300,000 into it, making these studio apartments really nice with quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, nice tile. They're pretty run down right now. I've kind of semi-remodeled a few of them, but then I've had some tenants that have lived there for 15 and 20 years that lived there way before I bought the building. They've just never had their units renovated. And after we're all done, and if we can get the rents up to about $650 an apartment, we'll make that building worth about $1.4 million. And then what we'll do is we'll sell that and go 1031 exchange it into buying more commercial properties that will do value adds. This is something I'm really focused on right now is the value adds with the commercial properties. This is why I like commercial real estate. For example, if I go flip a house, and we just bought a house last week that we're going to be flipping as well. So we're doing flips as well. And this house we bought, we're thinking, okay, after our renovation, we're going to hopefully be able to make, 50 or 60,000 from it. Whereas, with the 9-plex, we could make, 700, 600,000 in equity from it. And I've been really focused on helping some of my investor clients really do very significant value adds to the commercial properties, because as I mentioned with the commercial, if you increase the income for that property and you either refinance that property's investment property or sell it, the new value is based on market cap rate, the cap rate is providing, and and the income it's producing. So I've been helping my clients make millions of dollars the last few years with properties that they've been, that I find for them. And I see that they're undermanaged and under rented and run down, and we can go through and do nice remodels, and I get them released, and it just makes them a ton of money. And this is something we're really focused on trying to do ourselves now. And also just trying to see opportunities wherever we can.
Hey, Kody.
Yes.
Amy Gibbons has a question really quick, I think, on what you were just talking about.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I was actually just going to speak up about cap rates. A lot of listings have the cap rates wrong. They're inflated. And when we are representing our clients, that's something I think we should watch out for, because the cap rate is a calculation used based on your net income, not the gross income. So people base it on, hey, 12 months times $1,300 a month is your net income. They're calling that the net income. Well, it's not. That's your gross income. If you're paying any utilities, that has to be subtracted out. If you're paying any HOA, that has to be subtracted out before you do the division for the cap rate. And that was just a heads up I wanted to put out there, because I've seen a lot of mismarketing on cap rates in the public remarks section. And so it's inflating property prices. Do you agree?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of agents out there that don't understand cap rates, and they're basing off of a pro forma cap rate is what you're talking about, instead of an actual cap rate. And, when we're helping pick out properties for our investors, we look at the multi-unit list every single day, and we'll base it off of a quick pro forma cap rate. So we can just kind of pick out which properties are going to be ones that we need to look into further, because I don't always know or have the time to call every listing agent and find out what the water and sewer and, the lawn care and snow removal and, all the utilities and the insurance and the taxes, and figure out a true actual cap rate. You're right. It needs to be based on an actual cap rate. But yeah, there's a lot of confusion in the market with agents basing off of pro forma cap rates and people not really understanding how those work. You're right. What I was mentioning is I really like the long-term rentals. We make money off flips too, and I don't do tons of flips, but we'll do like 1 or 2 a year. And I prefer the long-term investments because they're a lot less management intensive. My goal is to have as much passive income as possible that is going to one day give me a pay for my lifestyle and current standard of living without having to sell real estate and work. I always tell Tori I want to grow up to be like my client Gordon. Gordon is one of my biggest clients I do a lot of business with. I'll probably make about $350,000 off of him this year alone. And he's the reason I got licensed in Wyoming as well to handle his commercial real estate portfolio. And it's his whole job is to manage his portfolio. He's always buying and selling and getting really strategic. And he's so wealthy. He probably owns over $50 million of paid for real estate. And he's a guy that doesn't have to work. He won't have to work another day in his life and still live a very, very well-off lifestyle. But he goes to work every day, and his work is to manage his portfolio and talk to people like me to help him find new properties and reinvest for him and sell his properties and get stuff released and get really creative and strategic. And that's the lifestyle that I want to live. I want to, create enough passive income that I don't have to go show properties on a Saturday. I don't have to, deal with all of the hard work we have to deal with. And selling real estate is hard. If you want to be really successful, you have to grind. You have to work a lot of hours. You have to put up with a lot of stressful things. And that's why people get burnt out so easily with real estate. And I think if we can all be focused on investing, we're all, we have the potential to make really good money. And you don't have to make a lot of money to be investing. You could be like me and be really creative with owner occupying. We tell a lot of our clients, hey, that don't have 20% down to go buy investment properties, take their house that they own and go buy another primary residence with a 3% down conventional loan and turn that one into a rental property. Live there for a year, do it again, and get creative. You guys should all be stacking up investment properties. We see these properties before anyone else does. We know more about them than anyone else does. And there's going to be one day that you guys are going to want to retire. You know, I was in Mike Ferry, you know, real estate coaching for 7 years, and I would go to all the Mike Ferry seminars, and he'd always point out these like 85-year-old, you know, people in the audience that were, you know, doing 100 transactions a year. That's cool and all, but I don't want to be 85 doing 100 transactions a year. I want to be like sitting on my yacht in the Caribbean or something when I'm that old. And I respect those people that can grind for that hard for that long, but I don't want it to be me. I want to be, you know, living that nice life and enjoying my life and not working it all the way for forever. So grind hard while you can, and just be really strategic on your investments. And we're just always, like I said, we're always trying to find different ways to maximize the investments. You know, for example, on one of the triplexes I own, I've been collecting $900 a month rent for one of the apartments for a lot of years. And this year we just went and put about $100,000 into doing a complete gut renovation and finishing an attic, adding an extra bedroom, bathroom. And we did the calculations. Okay, if we spend $100,000 and go buy another investment property, we might be able to make, you know, on a good investment property, $500 a month cash flow after the mortgage, which is great. That's still $6,000 a year plus the tenants paying down the mortgage. Or we can go renovate this property and put that $100,000 in and go pay off our investment in 2 years by turning that into an Airbnb. You know, that apartment we turned into a nice luxury Airbnb, and we've been making $5,000 to $6,000 a month on that one apartment that was making me only $900 a month before. Now in that building, we've been so successful that we're now moving the other tenants out of the long-term tenants out of that building and doing Airbnbs out of those as well, because the Airbnbs we've been finding are way more profitable, and we can go buy the furniture and remodel it and make it really cute, hire a designer to make it nice and make way more money than the long-term rentals. But I've also made mistakes doing this as well. I had an Airbnb for a year and a half out of fourplex in Rose Park because I had a client that had an Airbnb in his duplex in Rose Park that did really well. But we were only making a few $100s a month more than what we were leasing it for long-term. And for the amount of headache and hassle it was not worth it. So, you know, I've had to learn some things that location is very important.
Well, and it's really hard too, because we made it super nice, like super nice. You would think that you're in Park City. And so someone that sees these amazing pictures online and then they come and see it in the area, it just didn't match. So like that was a lesson.
Ghetto town, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's why we're being strategic.
Yeah, being strategic about that. And just trying to always find little avenues to, you know, rental increases, extra rent for pets, washer and dryer rentals, storage unit rentals, late fees. We're really strict on our late fees. We're really dialed in on our property management. We manage everything. Actually, pretty much Amber, our assistant, manages everything. Except for the Airbnb, which Tori manages that one. And where we're saving a lot of money by not hiring property management. And I've made the mistake of hiring property management over the years, and I realized that nobody cares more about your own investment and the success of your investment and your own money more than you do. And you have to inspect what you expect, because if you're not watching your investments and you're just letting somebody else manage it and not paying attention to what's going on, you're not going to be happy with the results always. you'll oftentimes have disappointments. So like something we teach a lot of our clients to do is manage their own real estate. And we've created lots of really good systems to make it very low management and time maintenance, eat up very little amount of time.
Lisa, you have a question? Lisa has a question. I have a question too. Go for it, Lisa.
Yeah.
Somebody had posted something about like getting a home warranty, and that's what they use on their rentals. So if something breaks down, then the home warranty company takes care of it. Do you guys do that type of thing, managing your own, or do you just have your own contractors that you call?
It depends on the property. Like I bought a fourplex where it was really run down, and I knew that the furnaces were super ancient. And I know that they were on their last leg, and I bought a home warranty plan, and we now had the home warranty plan covered replacement of 2 of those furnaces. It would be very expensive to buy home warranty plans on all 24 units with the renewal. So we're just kind of strategic about which properties, if we think that, hey, there's going to be a big expense that's coming up, like furnaces, then it makes it worth doing. But I'd say most of them we don't have home warranties, because you'll end up paying more in the home warranties than the repairs that are coming up, or the home warranty plans are sometimes not covering some of the big repairs.
So that's like a big part of that, like with that question is, so Tim and I have had investment properties that are new and great warranties and that kind of thing. We had this one that was old and it was awful. We had some renters move out, and then there was this awful night that was 10 below zero, and the pipes burst, totally like destroyed the house. Like it was just this biggest, most horrible experience. So we've been afraid to go after some of them. I mean, we've seen some good deals that are older, that homes that would cash flow, but just the whole thought of the maintenance side of thing really shies us away. I also am grossed out by old houses, but still, just from the investment standpoint of it, what are some of those things? Like, do you have a parameter of, if it's in this year, this newer than this year is, do you have like specifics with that? Or do you put a certain amount of money away every month, anticipating there's going to be certain repairs, or how do you go about that side of it?
We don't discriminate.
We don't discriminate.
By age, that is
I have some properties that are newer, and I have some properties that are 120 years old. And it just depends. We don't really put money aside for reserves. We just kind of handle repairs as they come up. And sometimes we have a sewer line that we have to replace, and it sucks because those are super expensive.
But that's when you don't do a sewer scope.
Yes, we learned the hard way by not doing a sewer scope, and it's been a costly mistake. So do your sewer scopes.
I would say that I think the biggest thing when we're now buying properties is doing our complete due diligence. So doing the meth test, doing the radon, getting the home warranty if we know that the water heater's old and the AC unit's old, and doing a sewer line. Doing the sewer line scope, because these are the expenses that are going to be super costly. And obviously, like the roof, we always, now on the slip that we just bought, we negotiated like 40 grand off the price, because the radon levels were high, the roof needs to be replaced.
Because
all
of
of these,
math.
yeah, so we're like, okay, well, we know these are all the big ticket items that have to be replaced, so we're going to negotiate down, and we know that it's already kind of been handled through the price. So I think that's the biggest thing. We actually do like the older rundown ones, because those are the
most profitable ones.
Yeah, but you also will, on the rundown ones, you pretty much always renovate something in those.
Yeah.
You don't
because I
rent
look
them
at it
out
and say,
in their
okay,
condition.
If I spend, X amount of money on buying a new property that's completely remodeled, my cash flow is very low. Or I can go buy a property that is really run down and needs repairs, and have a lower down payment and leverage the bank's money, and then go and spend the money on repairs and increase the rent so much. But on the renovation money, we can get 20-40% return on investment, where I can't go get 20 and 40% cap rates on buying properties, but I can get 20 to 40% cap rates on my actual return on investment.
Well,
and then with strategic on borrowing against it or refinancing out to get the money out of it.
Well, and then you can control that expense of the renovation more, and you can do the things that would have the biggest impact. Amy was saying too that she uses home serve insurance on the pipes for the older home rentals. I think those are the things like pipes, electrical, water heater, like the main systems of the house, furnace, roof. Those are really, and having a really good inspector, and like you said, taking that time for the due diligence and being willing to put the money in to renovate some of these things is important. Where I think that's where flips kind of help. Like, so I don't know, tell me what you guys think. But if you're wanting to do this, you want to own 24 doors or something like that, you've got to have some cash to get into it. And so there are some flips where you can easily get like a $20,000, $30,000 return. You can put that away towards your long-term investing in houses, because if you're going to buy something that's not owner occupied that needs renovation, that's going to take some cash that you're not going to get back quick. It's the long game, right? So you're talking about the short game versus the long game. And so it's property specific, but they can also be used together to help build your strategy for long-term investings and creating and building wealth, which is why we wanted to pair you two together too, is just the different philosophies. And both of you own and hold investment properties, and both of you flip. So I think it's cool to hear your different perspectives on it. But I don't think it's an either or, right? It's something that works in conjunction.
Can I just add to that really quick? I'm glad you brought it up, because that is totally, so as we've flipped these houses, you look back over the years and it's like, oh, if we would have just kept that, it's worth 3 times what we sold it for, and we made $40,000 or whatever, But, and so my husband and I, we always kind of go back and forth on this, because he really would like to keep more, but I'm like you, I'm scared of having rentals. Like, I don't want to be asking people for money. I don't want to be called in the middle of the night for repairs. Like, so anyway, but so that's how I've sold this plan to my husband, is like, but every time we flip a house, it just is money that goes toward a house that we can buy and rent, right? And so like, that's what we did next door, like the house we own next door, we paid cash for it. Like we own it outright. So every month that's just, income. And to add to the topic of whether you fix them up or not to rent them out, we fixed that up super nice, and we ended up getting a really cute family that wants to be there for 5 years. So like, I think that's one thing to note, is like, you put a little bit in, it pays for itself with higher quality renters.
Yeah.
You just have to be open to looking for the deal, not being so pigeonholed in, I'm only doing this type of property, where you guys have a lot. You've got, multifamily, you have single family, you've got old, new, Airbnb. And that's, I think, where people get caught too, is just being pigeonholed into what it is, when your focus is how much return is this going to get me. That's going to determine if it's a deal or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would say that now with us flipping, our whole goal is to not keep that money and to take it and invest in an investment property that we're going to just buy and hold, because at the end of the day, the passive income is what's going to really retire to
Yeah,
us.
the money from flipping we don't live on this. This is goes reinvest, and same with all the rentals.
Yeah.
And this is why the portfolio has grown so big over the years, is because we're not taking that money and living off of that money. It's all going into buying more real estate or creating more income from the real estate we own by doing renovations or paying down mortgages. And just it grows itself, and the bigger it gets, the more fast it grows. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people have a hard time with, is they're not disciplined. And if I have a lot of money sitting in the bank account, I will blow it. I'll go on vacations. It will burn a hole in my pocket. Really, I'm not very disciplined. This is why I've done very well with the real estate, because it's a forced savings account. I can't just go take money out of it and without selling or borrowing money with refinances or stuff. Whereas if I can just keep on throwing money at it, it's a great tax shelter. And 2, other people are growing your investments. All your renters are paying down your mortgages, and inflation and market values going up is causing your real estate to gain value as well. Whereas there's no way that I could have saved up as much equity as we have over the years in a savings account. And I'm a firm believer that I will never be able to save up enough money to retire and have that money last my whole life without having the real estate that generates that money every single month and is the passive income. So be strategic, guys. And if anyone ever has any questions, you guys are welcome to call us and ask us questions. We're an open book. The reason I've been very successful with my investments is because other people have been very open with sharing with me and teaching me what to do and giving me opportunities. And even with like the flips, if you guys have good deals and flips and you just don't know what you're doing, like we sometimes will team up with agents. We'll sometimes buy the flips and pay referral fees or wholesale fees. Sometimes, you know, we get really strategic of hard money. You know, there's some flips I've done where I pretty much borrowed 100% of the renovations and the down payment and had none of my own money into it.
I think you actually borrowed more.
Yeah, I borrowed more than I needed, and I've turned around and sold it and then made a nice profit, not a single dime of my own money, because I found good enough deals and been strategic enough too. So you don't have to have tons of money
to raise
to
it during
do
it.
this.
Yeah. What are some questions that you guys have?
So do you guys go outside of Utah? I mean, where do you?
Good question.
No, I want to focus where we know, the areas where we know. I'm licensed in Wyoming, so I sell commercial and residential real estate in Wyoming. But
and the only reason why is because his biggest client has a ton of real estate there.
Yeah,
so.
down like 150 properties.
Yeah.
So we try to invest where we know and where it's close, because if you can watch your real estate and be close if there's a problem, or you know, if you're renovating and doing flips and you can be there and see what's going on, you're gonna have a better experience. I know that I can go buy real estate in like Missouri and Kansas or Detroit for way super cheap and get way better cap rates and return on investment, but I don't know the area and it's hard to manage from across the state. Whereas even like my 9-plex in Ogden, that's a 50-minute drive away. That's why I want to, you know, redevelop that thing and sell it, because I never go there. So sometimes it's been
pain to go up there.
2 years before I've driven up there, because it's such a pain to just take the time to drive up there. So we try to have our real estate located as close as we can to manage
but
it.
I know some agents that have invested outside of Utah, and you know, that's their thing. I think we're just too controlling, where we want to be there if like our tenant is having issues, or we want to be able to handle issues if they're really true, because sometimes contractors aren't telling you the whole story and you really want to go see what's going on. And so I think we're just a little too controlling to invest out of state. Now commercial, I'd say that's something we probably would do.
Yeah.
But that's also.
But with some of the commercial leases, you're 5 and 10 year leases.
Mhm.
So you don't, and they're triple net. So the tenant is responsible for all the maintenance, the property taxes, insurance, everything. So you're not having to be, you know, in management. You know, we're all invested in the multifamily and residential rentals right now, but there will be a day where we get rid of every single residential rental and buy only commercial real estate, because the multiples are so much larger. And that's how some of my wealthiest clients have gotten so wealthy, is by doing that and getting, I sell all their residential properties and exchange into commercial properties. But the barrier of entry to buy the commercial properties, the risk is a lot higher. Vacancies are a lot higher. You can lose a lot more, but you can also gain a lot more. And just building up enough equity where we can 1031 exchange this stuff and not have to lose tons of money in taxes by selling, and still be able to have large enough down payments to make sense to do something. So that's something we're always thinking about, and the game plan, you know, probably in the next few years, to start exchanging the stuff into strip malls and office buildings and industrial parks and such.
I have another quick plug for RPAC and donating, because this has absolutely no political opinion tied to it at all. Okay. But I do know that in some of the things that are going to be great about Biden is that he's going to offer a whole, like on his program and his plan is for $15,000 credit for first-time buyers and things like that will help. One thing that he's ruling against is the 1031. So this has been on the docket before, but that helps to have all of the sides of, and this is all preliminary plans. We don't know the truth of any of it and all of that. I'm just saying our PAC has no political affiliation except to watch out for agents and these kinds of things. So just being aware of what things are out there. And
for sure. And I think that's, you know, no matter who's president, there's always going to be things that are changing, and just us being strategic and educating our clients to help them make the best decision is going to be what's most important, because Kody obviously deals with a lot of investors and 1031 exchange is really huge, but we're just going to have to adapt if
there's been times that it hasn't been as easy as it has been the last while, and people still bought and exchanged in it. So it's an ever moving thing. I want to replug for it.
And I think on those, I think what the proposal is getting rid of 1031 exchanges for people with incomes over 400,000.
Over 400,000. That's the difference.
So my commercial real estate market is going to really get hosed by it, which is going to make commercial property values go up because there's going to be less people that sell and more people that just want to buy that don't sell because they'll refinance and go buy commercial real estate. It's going to cause values to go up and make it really more challenging.
It's going to be, it's going to be challenging, but
it's going to mess the whole market up, I think.
Except the things that you hold are increasing in value too. So, I mean, with every single thing in every situation, there's a pro and a con. So it isn't I'm just encouraging us all to be aware of what it is that's out there. There's going to be benefits of all of the sides to it. But as you're representing investors and as you're having conversations about these kinds of things, to just be aware of their specific circumstance, what is out there, what their options are, to be able to best educate them. Because I think that's a big thing with both Annie and you guys is just understanding what's going on, being the proactive one, saying, hey, listen, this is what's happening. This is how I want to help you. And being the education piece so that they don't have to go and search it out is big. And then that also gives you the opportunity to understand that yourself, to be the one pulling the trigger on these awesome opportunities.
Yeah. Know these tax strategies, know the 1031 exchanges, know about depreciating real estate, know about cost segregation, know these things to help your clients. Because if you can become the expert and help your clients have a lower tax liability, more strategic with their own investments, it's going to make you a lot more money as well.
You're the hero. Mm-hmm. Any last words or last questions, Amy and everybody? Kody?
I think if you're not buying real estate, you should be. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people are scared of a market crashing. I don't care if the market crashes, because I'm not going to sell any of that real estate when the market's bad and crashing. It's always going to return, and just keep it long term. So be buying this, because you're going to regret not doing it down the road.
Do all of you use a CPA for tax planning? Because these are all taxable events that make the end of the year cumbersome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. So my flip money just gets added into my ordinary income. So it's just make money, pay taxes.
We try to pay as little taxes as possible.
Now we have it just coming out directly from our paychecks and stuff, or that are money coming in from KW, because it's just easier to do it that way and just plan that, okay, rather have more in that than not have enough and have to pay, $100,000 at the end of the year.
Well, and if you have if you have an understanding of that all from the get-go, kind of like what we were talking about with Annie with the flips, is that if you understand the tax amount on there from the beginning, okay, I'm going to have to pay capital gains on that, and it's going to be approximately this amount, then that's going to help you to understand if it's a good deal or not, or if it's something that you want to go forward with.
And we pretty much know how much we're going to be taxed on every deal or every flip that we do. And so we just take that portion and just put it in the savings account, and then we just make sure we pay our quarterlies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emily, that was the thing we were talking about, is it's not capital gains, because we all
it's the income.
So it's
Yeah.
taxed at a higher rate.
I wish
That's
it was
right.
capital gains.
Yeah, and it can put you right. That's right. Sorry, I said that wrong.
You need to hold it
And-
for 2 years.
But the benefit to it being in a savings account is we can use it as an asset when we're applying for our loans. It works
Yeah.
out great.
Yeah.
Totally. That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're trying to finance another property and we're just kind of keeping it in there until we're done and then we'll pay it.
Do most of your properties, are they held by LLC?
Yes.
Oh, Wendy, that's a good question. Oh, go ahead, Kody. Sorry.
For us, yes. Except for,
separate.
all separate LLCs for liability reasons.
Okay.
I sat down with an attorney and paid an attorney to teach me everything I need to know about this. And that's what he advised for liability reasons. That the LLCs, if you're a single member LLC, is just a pass-through. You can get more strategic with your tax structure if you're multi-member LLCs. Your accountant can probably help you with that. But on the primary residences, we don't put those in LLCs.
We have been told to put it in a trust. We just haven't
Okay.
gotten around to that yet.
We have a good trust guy too. We just barely did that. We just put our properties all in a trust and got everything all switched over, and it's nice to have. There's pros and cons to all of it too. You just have to have somebody that has good knowledge.
Actually, if any of you have somebody who does trusts and wills, put it in the comments. We're looking for somebody. We haven't done that yet and need to.
I didn't know. I know.
Something
And
to
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say something to consider as well as there was a property last year that me and my brother owned together, and we wanted to sell it and 1031 exchange it, and we'd put it into a multi-member LLC, and it ended up being very challenging to be able to get it switched into our personal names without creating a taxable event, because they wouldn't borrow on residential real estate with LLCs. You had to borrow in your personal name, but funds from the 1031 exchange were coming from a corporation. So it got a little messy
And the
tricky.
loan was only in his brother's name, but they were both on the
Yeah.
LLC of the.
It made it
deed,
really,
so it was
really
messy.
messy, and it ended up not working out for us.
And they haven't
so-
talked since.
No. We ended up selling it and paying the taxes, and Chase bought his Cape Cod house with the funds.
There we go.
He was stoked on that. It worked out. It worked out
But
for
something
us.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, just
Because-
what is the plans in the
Yeah.
future? Because just putting it into an LLC might, prevent you from, trying to sell that and getting financing if you're doing 1031 exchanges.
Awesome. Well, I know Annie had to hop off. This has been helpful. Yeah, everybody?
Yes.
It's been really, really helpful. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time. That's the thing I love so much about this company is just you, like these faces I see on my screen, and just are wanting to help each other. It's so good. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
Take care. Oh, Annie is there. Hi. And thanks,
Oh
Ann.
yeah, I'm
I thought you
here.
already had gone. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you all soon.
Okay, thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.